I know that people in the past have made videos very similar to this. Also, sorry if I look kind of like scraggy. I just got out of the shower. Anyways, I know that people in the past have made videos very similar to this, but why do people ban classes in their D&D campaigns? The most commonly banned classes I see in people's D&D campaigns are the Artificer and the Blood Hunter. So we're going to be going over those today. I'm going to start off with the Blood Hunter, and then I'm going to go to the Artificer. The first reason why I see people mostly banning the Blood Hunter is because it's unofficial. It's not balanced like every other D&D class, which, you know, that's a completely different rule. Personally, I don't allow any homebrew classes at my D&D table, but a lot of people will say, okay, well, it wasn't made by Hasbro's Wizards of the Coast, so they weren't in the same mindset and they didn't balance it correctly compared to every other class and every other class that they weren't developing it at the same time as all the other classes, so it's not balanced. They weren't in the same mindset, basically all that stuff. But once again, why does this really matter? The Blood Hunter is an optional class, a fan-created class. It was created by the people at Critical Role, Matthew Mercer. Another reason why I see people ban this class a lot of times is because it's kind of an everything class. For example, Order of the Profane Soul quite literally allows you to get Warlock spellcasting and Warlock patron features. Now, it does jump off at level 3, which is kind of a little bit of a downside, and you don't get the Eldritch Invocations, but it still doesn't matter. You're still getting Warlock levels as a subclass for another class without multiclassing. Another unbalanced part about this class is that it is MAD. MAD is an acronym that stands for Multi-Ability Score Dependent. Your Blood Hunter is a half-caster, which means that they either need to have Strength and Dexterity, and then Wisdom or Intelligence. You get to pick, which is honestly kind of cool. But the biggest reason why I see people banning the Blood Hunter is because of self-harm. Self-harm imagery is baked into this class's, one of the only pieces of art associated with this class, the biggest one, and a lot of people just don't want that at their game. Even though how wrong it is and, how much of it shouldn't be happening, self-harm is still a common everyday issue that a lot of people will deal with. So having a class like this where its main, feature inquires you to, self-harm just won't be allowed at most people's, tables. And it really sucks because there are a lot of people who want to play that fantasy of a dark monster hunter, someone who became part of the monster that they're trying to fight and track down, that way they could track them and kill them better. So it just really sucks whenever this one class gets dragged down by that imagery. The Blood Hunter still isn't allowed at multiple people's that I've ever played at tables because, it's not an official class, and also because of all the reasons that I've listed before, the self-harm, the Warlock spellcasting, the dipping into other classes' domains, all that stuff. Also, to my knowledge, I don't believe that the Blood Hunter ever got a physical release, which is another reason that this class kind of gets looked down upon as separate. I'm gonna, kind of spoilers for later on, but unlike the other class that we're gonna be covering today, the Artificer, at least that got a physical release, and some people were able to buy that book and then open it and then look down on it. That book, or that class, was actually re-released multiple times, which is, a problem that we can talk about in some other video, but, yeah. Like I just talked about a minute ago, well, more like a second ago, the next class that we are going to talk about actually has a physical release. It is the Artificer. Artificers were first printed in Waypointer's Guide to Eberron, then Eberron Rising from Last War, and finally Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. The main deal of Artificers is that they are magical spellcasters. Now, because of this, they are only half-casters. Artificers get a decent spell list, having stuff like Absorb Elements, Aid, Rope Trick, Blink, and Bigby's Hand. So yeah, they're decent spellcasters, but their main ability is called Infuse an Item. You gain the ability to basically create magic items. This allows them to make magic items, such as an Alchemy Jug, Boots of Elvenkind, Bracers of Archery. It allows you to make some decent magic items. The main reason why I see people banning this class, however, is because it doesn't show up in the player's handbook. That's for a lot of homebrew classes, and even the one that we mentioned earlier, the Blood Hunter, because it doesn't show up in the player's handbook, a lot of the time DMs will say, well, it's not balanced, or it's not really, like, they weren't in the same mindset while developing the main 12 classes, and so this one is kind of out of sync with that. I see a lot of people saying that, but that excuse doesn't really stand here because this is a Wizards of the Coast product. This is an official product that they released. A lot of people will also say, well, you know, the Artificers 2 out of 3 releases were in the Eberron products, which means that this class is only for Eberron. My biggest, like, counterpoint to that is it's also in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which is a book mostly focusing on the Forgotten Realms, because if you don't know, that's where D&D, you know, 5th edition takes place, and they're expecting that everything that they release within their books, Forgotten Realms or not, for this edition can also work within the Forgotten Realms. Another big, like, talking point that people who ban the Artificer will say is, well, the subclasses don't really fit into my class or my games. Number one, I'm pretty sure everyone has some form of alchemy shop or alchemist that exists within their world. If your players have ever gotten their hands on a potion of healing, then alchemists can work pretty well. And if there's no potions in your world, then that just sounds like a sad D&D world to be playing in. The artillerists are kind of described as, you know, like, people who use guns and people who, you know, build, like, turrets and all that stuff. I can get why that wouldn't be in a traditional fantasy setting. Same with the battlesmith, but it never said that these things have to look like traditional guns. Artificers pretty much have access to every tool proficiency in the game. Your Eldritch Cannon can quite literally be a glass cannon. It can be made out of stones with runes on the side. It doesn't have to be a cannon. So personally, I do allow the Artificers in my games. Another great example of classes that a lot of GMs will ban without directly saying it is just any other homebrew classes. Most of the time, the DMs will bring up classes like I've already mentioned, the Artificer, the Blood Hunter, by saying, like, okay, just because they're on D&D Beyond doesn't mean that they are official, or doesn't mean that I'm going to allow them on my games. But even nowadays, there's more classes that are getting put on D&D Beyond, which are also getting banned. Like the Ill Ringer, which is pretty much like a knight from the Nine Hells. I don't see how that's different than a paladin. I honestly don't see how it's different than an Oathbreaker paladin. But I haven't played one, and I haven't played with one. The other one is the Gunslinger, which, you know, pew, pew, pew. Gonna go around doing, like, gun tricks and all that stuff. Pew, pew. YouTube, this is a Nerf gun. So yeah, there are just a lot of classes that people will ban. Like, for example, if you go onto the D&D wiki and go to the homebrew section for 5th edition and find a class, see, like, let's choose the Death Knight. See, it personally just looks like they're balancing too much stuff at once, and then just look how long the table of contents is. See, like, for example, here at level 6, Death Strikes. That's an additional 1d8 necrotic damage, just like in general. The original Paladin doesn't get an ability like that until level 8, I believe. Oh no, they don't even get that until level 11. I'm actually looking at it now. So yes, a lot of these classes are just overpowered, or very campaign specific. So I get why people would ban classes like this. But at the end of the day, it is your game, and you have the ability to ban whatever classes you would like, especially if you're a DM. Thank you for watching. If you liked videos like this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and check out more of my videos. Alright, bye.